One of the biggest challenges we face in the sickle cell community is enlightenment and advocacy. And that's because not everybody understands the rudiments of talking to people, to also understand how you want to convey the message. It's one thing to have something to say, and it's another thing to have a way of saying it. So it's difficult because some people will just end up saying things that would be annoying. It can just make the person that is supposed to receive the message to become resistant to the message, and it's been difficult to try and have a unified way of disseminating messages. And I came across this Facebook post. It's by a lady called Essay Ekpe on Facebook, and I think I don't know if she has sickle cell, but a lot of what she's saying is from a first person perspective, and that's one of the reasons why I thought to talk about it. And she said, why genotype is a warlord. That's the title. The bitter truth is you can't stop the birth of sickle cell babies. If they don't come through you, their parents intentionally, they will come by mistake. Everyone has the right to procreate. My advocacy on sickle cell anemia as a sickle cell warrior changed totally everything when I discovered this truth. You don't know other people's stories, so don't be too quick to judge them. Sickle cell is my mortal inheritance. Stop treating people as if birthing a sickle cell child is grievous or a grievous sin. You can force a horse to the river, but you cannot force it to drink water. Life is not set by your standards, but by God's standards. The only reason genotype became the marriage warlord is to stop birthing beautiful babies like me. So if you don't want to birth a beautiful child like me, you don't need genotype warlord to get married. So she's a warrior. From the post, she's a warrior, and I don't really understand what she's trying to say here, but the message itself has a lot of innuendos. But what she's saying directly is that people are policing people, that genotype should determine whatever marriage or love should be. And she is advocating that if that was what they did to her parents, then definitely she wouldn't have been given birth to. But the question is, the fact that she's beautiful, does it mean sickle cell would recognize her beauty and not kicking? It's not every warrior that has the same story. Yes, some people, their parents didn't even know about the genotype thing, but they ended up together and they had children with sickle cell. Some parents are outrightly stubborn. I know there is a family that you are AS, both of you are AS, you have 6 children, and you went ahead to still try and get the 7th child, and the 7th child was the one that came out with sickle cell. And guess what? Almost all the resources of that family was going to that one person. So eventually it can affect the other children, because they will start thinking, probably my parents don't like me, they like this one more and all that, because children don't really process the relationship you have with them the way adults will process his own. There are children that even grow up to be adults and they still have the impression that their parents didn't like them. So I don't really understand why, yes, to a great extent what she's saying is true, because you cannot really stop the whole sickle cell pandemic from the ripple effect it brings. But we keep trying. It's not about stopping the one that has been born. It's about stopping the ones that are yet to be born. It's about making people understand that informed decisions come with consequences. And I don't even think people know that with sickle cell you can't even be too prepared, because even those that have experienced sickle cell, one way or the other, either through a cousin and all that, they don't even have the manual of making sickle cell the easy disease to handle. So yes, for this one she's saying, if she's a beautiful baby that has been produced from sickle cell, yes, every human being is beautiful. There are people that have given birth to children with disabilities, and these children have told themselves that they are the best thing that happened to the parents. Why? Because first of all, you have to accept the way you are, and then subsequently you can shame the people that feel they want to use your condition to make fun of you, make jest of you, or mock you. So I don't think this is what we should be doing, encouraging people to have sickle cell children. That's not it. That is not the conversation. The conversation is, you are already a sickle cell patient, and with the whatever story that came with your existence is the management of sickle cell. If the parents had their way, to a great extent they will tell you they wouldn't have wanted to go through all of this. But you can't just tell me that because a parent gave birth to a child with sickle cell, and because they don't like sickle cell, the relationship they built with the child will now be estranged, so they will just outrightly hate the child. That's not how it works. There are people that have very good experiences, good homes, good caregiving, good resources economically, and the children still hate the parents. That is sickle cell for you. So yes, you can't force a horse to the river, but you cannot you can force a horse to the river, but you cannot force it to drink water. That's what she said. And life is not set by standards but God's standards. The question is, if you have malaria, are you telling me that you will not want to treat it because you just want to pray about it and that's it? Yes, it's God's standard. God gave us life. He gave us everything that we've experienced. So the issue of looking at standards and all that is not it. Does the faith you believe in tell you that you go ahead and commit something that is unacceptable simply because you can? So when we saw this message, one of the first things we did was to put out the information that would spotlight the need for us to be careful what we're posting, even on social media. So there was this reaction from our team. So the reaction is, this message is mixed and can be misleading. I agree with you, we cannot stop birthing sickle cell patients, but can we reduce it a lot by advocating for the right thing? We complain a lot about the state of our country, Nigeria, which has the highest record of sickle cell, but also a lot of corruption. It's not because it will change with a snap of a finger, but we are hopeful to ignite the consciousness of those willing to do the right thing. There are also many beautiful people living with sickle cell. Doesn't mean they never had crises or experienced the hurdles of sickle cell and the trauma it brings. It is a fact, no matter what we do, there is still ignorance and stubbornness, and even the religious who think they can harass God. But let's do our part and reduce the numbers for those carrying the responsibility of helping provide for patients and caregivers, because it's not easy at all. Those are the people and organizations who choose not to abandon the patients when sickle cell overwhelms their parents. So this response came from a place of the experience we've had. Our team was putting it out there because we need people to understand that birthing the children alone is not even the main issue. The main issue is the management, taking care of them, and these things overwhelm people, and eventually parents get tired, abandon the children. Some children are orphaned and nobody to help them, because sickle cell is not something you just say I'm adopting a child with sickle cell and expect that everything just becomes normal simply because your heart is pure or whatever. Most of the time we go for advocacies and we hear stories of how the parents have not fulfilled their dreams because the child they didn't bargain for everything. A parent is out there thinking he would have had a plot of land by now, built his house, but they are still in a rented apartment, and it's not like the resources wouldn't have been able to help them achieve it. But a responsible parent that cares for the child would always pick the child over a plot of land. So some of these parents have experienced these things. Some of them cannot even rant. Some of them cannot even come out to say, I wish this thing was different from what it is. But that is life. That is the seriousness around these things. So we're trying to reduce the workload. As it is now, Nigeria's population in the whole world, we keep saying, in the whole world there are a lot more patients living with sickle cell in Nigeria than in any. In fact, the number of patients in Nigeria we're looking at is times 10 or 20 of what other countries have. For example, we know that in the US there are up to 110,000 babies living with sickle cell. In UK there are like 25,000 babies living with sickle cell. In these countries we are talking about a birth of 100 to 300 babies a year with sickle cell, most especially within the US. The UK seems to have less data at our fingertips, so we know that in the UK about 40 to 90 babies are given birth to with sickle cell annually. Then in India has up to 1.8 million people living with sickle cell, but Nigeria is calculating 47 million living with sickle cell or carriers. That's a lot of number. If all the NGOs in Nigeria say we want to cater for sickle cell patients, where would the resources come from? So the ones that are already on the ground, we are not even able to cater for them. Talk less of the ones that are going to join, and there are no resources to even cater for them. So what are we doing? So yes, I believe it's a thing of choice. Like some people would say they would rather they arrest people that are getting married, both AS they know, and they still go ahead with it. So but the thing is, people, there is freedom to do what you want, but you see where that freedom ends is where you have a child and you want another person or an organization to be the one to come and help you take care of the child. How does it even make sense? Yes, there are situations where people actually legitimately need the help because there was no information, they didn't even know anything, and here we are. So I think for most of these things that we keep saying, women, be careful. You're the ones at the receiving end. You're the first caregiver of the child. So you need to be conscious of the things you're doing, the decisions you're taking. Ask for genotype at the very early stage so that you don't give yourselves unnecessary headache. Because, okay, you end up with an AS partner, you have a child with sickle cell, this child is always crying, you're the one that would be with the child. Even if the father is available, the father will not be the one to breastfeed the child. The father will not be the one to stay all through with the child. If the father has to go and bring whatever the family will feed on, then at the end of the day, you are the stationary caregiver. So you start getting traumatized, frustrated, depressed, and all that, simply because you have a child with sickle cell, and then you can't really voice out your frustration, and it becomes the new normal. But having said all of these things, there are still fantastic people living with sickle cell, and this conversation is not about the assassination of warriors living with sickle cell. It's about the precaution for those that we can avoid from experiencing the kind of pain that the ones that are available are still experiencing. If people like Adekunle Gold would share their stories with you, he has the money and all that, but these things don't respect you, whether you are fine or fair or black or whatever. It is a disorder, a disease that you're going to have to just face the reality and deal with. My name is Alpha, and we try to make sure that we bring as much information about sickle cell to you as possible. So see you on the next one.